right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Online X Bootcamp sales session where we're going to talk about how to convert leads into customers. I'm John MacDonald, founder and CEO of The Good, a conversion rate optimization firm who has been optimizing some of the world's largest e-commerce websites for over a decade. Now, before I get into introing our guest today, I'd really like to know, where is everybody from? If you could just take a moment and use the chat box to answer where you're joining us from today, that would be wonderful. And I today am in New York, actually, in the United States. So I'm joining from across the ocean. Great. Wonderful. Well, it's great to see everybody here today. Lots of folks from Cape Town, Johannesburg. Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you. We'll a couple of quick housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat as we go. I will make sure to moderate those questions and, if relevant, interrupt and make sure it gets asked of our guest today as we go through. So don't hesitate to ask any questions that you may have. Now, today I am really excited. We have a really great guest from Net Florist, who you probably all know of, South Africa's largest online florist. And I want to start with today, we have Kimberly Dutoy, who is the UX lead at Net Florist. And we have Ryan Becker, who is the founder and MD of Net Florist. And so welcome, Kimberly. Great to see you there, and Ryan as well.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so I believe you have a quick video you wanted to share with everybody as we jump in. So I'll turn this over to you to do, and then we will get into the presentation.
Great. Yeah, I was very lucky. About 3 years ago, I was in New York, and I went to a marketing company called Pentagram, and they were asked about 4 years ago to rebrand MIT. MIT have about 24 divisions underneath them, and they wanted a logo, but they wanted all these 24 divisions to have some kind of logo that was synonymous with MIT and felt and looked the same. And I'll just play the video now. They actually came up with a font, and they handed this over to MIT such that for every division, MIT wouldn't need to come back to Pentagram to rebrand. And the reason why I want to show the video is because design and UX are now almost synonymous. In other words, good design allows the user to experience this thing in a way that you almost don't notice the design. It's so good. So I'll just play the video. I'll keep quiet. It's about a 30-second video. And I just wanted to give you a sense of what these guys did for MIT, which for me is the most beautiful concept of design and UX, because these things are physical. These logos sit at MIT now. They're in every building, in every department, in every classroom. So I'll just play it and let you see. So for me, what's beautiful about that is there's this umbrella brand called MIT, and underneath are 24 sub-brands, but they now all work together. There's a font that's been created, and wherever you are in the MIT world, you understand that you're in a subdivision of a mother brand. And yeah, I just love simplicity, but the brief behind it would have been uber complex, right? Create 24 sub brands, one mother brand, and it's this meeting point of complexity and simplicity that I thought would be interesting to see in video format before we chat, because for Kim and I, that's what UX is. There's always this complexity behind it, and when the customer interfaces, it should feel very simple. But it doesn't take away from the complexity behind it, whatever you're trying to do. John, are you happy that we get into the presentation?
Yes, please. Why don't we jump right in? And I'm sure I'll have some questions as we get in to this as well.
Great, thanks. So Kim's our UX lead. Kim is not feeling great today. She's just coming off a bit of flu. Otherwise, I'd be very quiet and Kim would take in the lead. But she'll be contributing all the time. But just she's got a bit of a snivel. So, but thanks for being with us, Kim.
Sure.
Great. So just to start off, how we think about UX at NetFlorist is, and UX and UI and CRO, these are all interchangeable acronyms, but we think about it as helping the customer to do what we want them to do. We're not a charity. We sell products, we sell flowers and gifts, and that's what we want our customers to do. And Kim's key focus at NetFlorist is helping the customer buy flowers and gifts. That's what we do. And Kim's got to do that the best way she can. And the way that we think about that is to create kind of a frictionless journey. So it should be as easy as possible for a customer at NetFlorist to buy what we sell. And that's really Kim's role. And when I hired Kim, what I was really hiring for was the intersection between design and, frankly, maths. I know that sounds really weird, but as UX was starting to develop into kind of its own industry 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what landed up happening was designers were putting their hands up for this role because they know how to make things beautiful. But it very quickly fell apart because UX is not about making things look pretty. It's about very easily allowing the customer to do what you need them to do. And that takes maths and stats, because what you're doing all the time is you're changing things and then you're measuring the output. And that interface of those two is really what we consider UX. And the reason why Kim is very good at this in our business is she's got a design background, but she's got a passion for the numbers. So Kim is very keen to understand what are we trying to solve, or what are we trying to sell, whatever it is. She'll apply her gut to the situation. We'll make it live, and we're going to show you some examples later. And then she wants to know the data. She wants to know what impact did that change make, and should have we done it like this, and let's change it up. But it's not anymore about a designer's gut of, well, we're going to make this thing look pretty, and that's how it's going to be. That kind of is old thinking, and it's the reason why I don't think a designer is sufficient anymore for UX. It has to be a designer who is also somebody with a passion for data and figures and output. Kim, I don't know your view on that. If you were hiring, you started a UX company and you were hiring, what would you hire for?
I would hire for research, perhaps not necessarily mathematics, but a research background. Somebody who was able to collect and analyze data, or collect and analyze information from a quantitative or a qualitative resource.
Cool. So great. So I thought that would help everybody on the call, because there could be small businesses, big businesses on the call, people about to build a website, and what they think they need is a designer. And of course, design is important, but what they need is somebody who also really is interested in the data. And that's going to help them significantly turn leads or whatever they're trying to do into sales, more so than just design. John, I don't in your experience, what you've come across.
Well, I was going to ask you and Kimberly, how do you balance the customer experience in UX versus the revenue needs, right? So thinking about bringing someone in who is more in a research background, less about the numbers. How would you balance that? How do you do that on a practical level?
Right. So Kim and I argue all the time, which is wonderful. And the reason why we do that is because Kim is very much for the customer in our business. She wants the experience to be as beautiful as possible for the customer in every way. And I want to sell. And sometimes, more often than not, we get into very, very hectic discussion and debate about that, because I'll say to Kim, look, I just want customers to, buy these flowers. This is the product. Just work out a way that they'll absolutely buy it, no matter what, etc. And Kim will say, no, but if we shove it down their throats, we may convert them this time, but they're not going to come back because it was an unpleasant experience. So we're balancing that all the time. It's very healthy to have that discussion all the time, and hopefully we find a middle ground. Sometimes Kim wins, sometimes I win, whatever it is. But it's a very, very healthy debate, because that is where design and customers meet. That's kind of the interface. Kim, I don't know what your views on that. I'm sure you'll concur that we have lots of heated debates about it, but they're very healthy.
Definitely. I think in the end, we find a middle ground. In the end, we find a way, to answer your question, John, to meet our revenue needs and our sales needs in such a way that we are not infringing on the customer, and in such a way that we bring them back.
Cool.
So we have a good question as we jump in here really quickly. Somebody was asking, how does one measure if their UX is good on a website?
Ooh, so we'll get to that. Tell them to stay up.
Lovely.
We're going to get to that. Cool. So we just put there as a field that must be data-driven research, and it's the interface of the two, of design and customer. And kind of how do we find this balance? And we often think about two things. The first is who we are. So there is a design element. So we have a brand identity, and we have a corporate identity. We have a certain tone of our brand. So Kim doesn't start with a blank piece of paper, right? If she's going to design something, our corporate colors are, you see it in the middle, are this kind of salmon pinky thing. It has many different names, the color, but Kim's going to start with our color tones and our design tone and the tone of our brand. And then she's going to overlay that. What is the objective of this piece of UX? Whatever it is, whether it's a log-on screen, whether it's a new category page, whatever it is, she's going to start with who we are, our brand, our tone, etc. And then what is the objective of this? So for a log-on screen, it's to either allow people to log on or to register with us, right? That's the objective. So it shouldn't have anything else on it. There should be no clutter. It should be very simplistic, but it should also take into account who we are, so you suddenly don't feel like you're on somebody else's website. So that's kind of how we think about UX, who we are as a business, and what is the objective of this particular piece of UX that Kim's designing, whatever it is. Okay. And as I said, there's a tension. There's often a tension between sales and UX. And I think about it for those who've been in quite operational businesses, it's often the tension between sales and operations. People are heading to sell things, and operations are going, whoa, we can't execute on that. We don't have enough stock, whatever it is. And that tension's healthy because it moves the business forward. There's a middle ground. And those of you familiar with the term singularity, I think it's reached when form and function are no longer discernible. And I would suggest one of the best examples of that is Uber. So if you think of Uber, and we all use Uber, another example would be Kindle's one-touch ordering. Let's stick to Uber. This device, or this app, right, is very complex behind it. There are a lot of moving parts in Uber, whether it's food or get a ride. But when when you call a cab through Uber, it's a very simple interface. It's the one on the right, and it's just, we all experience it, and it's very uncomplex. But the complexity behind it is immense, much more complex than our business. And yet they've filtered it down to this very, very simple interface. And that, for me, that's like UX singularity. Now, there are not many examples of this, right? Uber's unique, and Kindle's one-touch ordering is unique. These are supreme examples. We should all aspire to be them and not be disappointed when we're not Uber and we're not Kindle, right? But it is that singularity. It's where these things meet. And when I use Uber, I often am amazed by how simple it is, but how complex the process behind it is. And we aspire to be like that, for sure.
Just to add to that
yeah.
thought, Ryan,
Right.
before you proceed. So what's interesting is that, we can count on one hand the number of companies who implement this, but the idea of form follows function has been around for a really long time. I think it came into its own in 1940s, came in with the Bauhaus, and it's something that we all know about, but we don't employ. And essentially what it says is that you shouldn't do anything, you shouldn't design anything, add anything to your product that doesn't have a purpose and that isn't going to improve it in some way. There should be nothing that's there just for the sake of being there. And UX design is the same.
Right.
I love that. I often say that consumers are only at an e-commerce website for two reasons. The first is they believe that you can help solve a pain or need that they have. And second, once they've determined that you can, they want to convert as quickly and easily as possible and then get on with their lives. So anything that gets in the way of those two things is really what I would consider poor UX.
Definitely.
Right. And John, I mean, it's easy to think about these examples in the offline world. I mean, packaging. Like we've got a washing detergent. It's an openness thing. It's like World War III. At the end of it, I want to kill the designer. I like the detergent, but the packaging just kills me, right? So eventually, I've moved along to another packaging, and that's UX. The packaging of that washing detergent is plain and simple UX. They're making it difficult for me to get to their product, and that has an impact. Eventually, I shift and I move. It's all over the place. It's not just online, but Kim and I are only in the online space, but you see it everywhere. You see good and you see bad design.
Very true. I often say that in e-commerce, if you wouldn't do it in a retail store, don't do it online, right? So, imagine you go to an e-commerce site and you get all these pop-ups as soon as you get to the site asking for your email address, right? And as a consumer, that's very disturbing to me. But imagine if I walked into a retail store and a sales associate jumped out in front of me with a clipboard and said, "John, give me your email address." As soon as I walked in the store, I probably would not take very kindly to that, right? So why are people doing that on their e-commerce websites? It's really no different of an experience for the consumer, except that the people running this e-commerce store cannot see the consumer on the other side of the screen. That's the only difference. So you really have to have empathy, even though you cannot see and interact with that consumer in the same way.
Right. And just by the way, that's the kind of argument that Kim and I would have. And it would be heated because I'd say to Kim, we want to collect email addresses. And Kim would say to me, yeah, but pop-ups are lousy. And I'll say, yeah, but so what? Like, some of our customers won't like it, but some of them will give us the email addresses and that's really valuable. And Kim will say, what do you mean some of our customers don't like it? That they're our customers. If any of our customers don't like it, don't do it. And I'll say, but the value of an email address, like down the line, is, we can sell product to them, we can monetize that email address. And so we'll have this debate, right? And it's, and hopefully we'll come with some middle ground, which will be kind of a bar at the top of the site that you can engage with, or you don't have to engage with. It doesn't jump out at you, but there it is, offering some kind of discount if you give us the email address. And Kim will say, well, that's fine. We're not shoving it down our customers' throats. If they want to engage with it, they will, but don't jump out of the aisle with a clipboard and scare them, because that's not a good experience. So that debate that Kim and I have, we often land up some kind of middle ground of, yes, it's helpful for the business to get an email address, but let's not upset our customers while we're trying to do that. And so
that's a great debate.
Yeah, no, we have many of those.
We could do an hour on pop-ups like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So just a question before, John, people wanted to know metrics that we look at. So actually, these are our 3 key metrics that Kim and I look at. There are many underneath this, but that's a whole nother webinar. So at the bottom, the Uber stat that most e-commerce companies look at is a conversion rate. And just to explain that very simply, is if 100 people come to our website and 10 buy, we've got a conversion rate of 10%. So it's just the amount of people who buy that come to our website. Now, we've got 2 that make that up, because buying is a combination of 2 things. Firstly, is adding to basket. So in our world, we think of it as finding the right gift. We're a gifting business. So when you come to our site, Kim's job is to help our customers find the right gift. Now, we've got a merchandising department and they're procuring the products. That's not Kim's job, but her job is of the products that we have and the categories, how to easily help the customer find what they're looking for, whether it's birthday, anniversary, whatever. Now, I'm sure most of the people on this webinar are not gifting businesses. They're selling other products. That's often achieved by search, often, sometimes not. It's the toolbar at the top. It's a left-hand navigation system. There are all sorts of ways to do it. But the stat that we're trying to improve all the time is our add to basket rate. On the next slide, we'll show you these stats and they're live and we're happy to share them. Then once somebody's added to the basket, exactly what you said, John, is help them to pay for that thing quickly. Help them to complete the process. It's really been in the checkout aisle at a supermarket, and that's why it's called checkout. We call it checkout and funnel. It's the same thing for us. So once you've added to basket, we need some information from you. We need to know where that thing's going to be delivered. We need a message on a card. It's a particular peculiarity with gifting. We need a date you want it delivered, and then we need you to pay. So Kim's job is to make that as easy as possible, really easy. And she's iterating all the time to try and find ways to make that easier and easier and to declutter it, to remove the friction. And the combination of add to basket and checkout is a sale for us. Somebody found what they were looking for and they bought it. That's the sale, and that is our conversion rate. That is our conversion rate. And these are our stats. These are our stats for July. They're live stats in July. And you can see some of the numbers, and this is what keeps Kim and I awake and what we want to improve on. So just at the top, our overall add to basket rate is 13%, and our conversion rate is 7%. So those are our stats, but we have a desktop site and a Mobi site, and you can't think of them the same because people behave differently on desktop and Mobi. Now, when you're first building a website, get it up and running, but as you get going, you're going to have to understand the nuance between how people shop on a desktop site and how people shop on a Mobi. And the stats are very different. So you'll see our stats on desktop are much better than Mobi. So our add to basket on desktop is 20%, and on Mobi it's 9%. Now you could say, well, we've got a lousy Mobi site, but the reality is that people are far less patient on a Mobi device. They're used to swiping and clicking, and a WhatsApp comes up and a call comes through and a Facebook post, etc. So to keep somebody's attention on a Mobi site is pretty tough. It's harder than a desktop site. And so worldwide, the stats on Mobi versus desktop are poorer. So on desktop, as an example, currently it's at 20.4, and Kim wants to get that better. Because, again, this just to simplify it, of 100 people that come to our site, 20% find something and add it to basket. Okay? If Kim can make that 22 or 23, that's worth a lot of money to us at the end of the month. So she's trying to grow that add to basket all the time. And she's trying to grow the checkout or funnel. At the moment, of the people that add to basket, 69% buy. Of those people that add to basket, 69% complete that process. Whether that's good or bad doesn't matter. We worry about the other 30. Why couldn't they buy? What happened in the checkout process? Was it the log-on screen? Was it the screen where they had to give us their delivery address? Was it our payment screen? Where did they drop off? And we know that. We can analyze where they drop off. And Kim is continually trying to remove the friction. So that 69 becomes 70, becomes 71, becomes 72. And for us, that's money. It just equates into revenue. Simple as that. And the same thing on our Mobi site. So most people talk about a conversion rate. And here it is, 12% on our desktop and 4% on our Mobi. But actually, as a number, it's pretty irrelevant. Unless you know what makes up that conversion rate, you don't know how to change it. So we know what makes it up. Finding the right gift, adding it to basket, and then paying. So Kim is working in those two silos all the time. And if she improves either one of those, our conversion rate will improve just naturally. And yeah.
Oh, so Ryan, sorry to interrupt there. So obviously all of these numbers are around the ultimate conversion of a purchase, as you showed in the funnel before. There are several other stats that I imagine you pay attention to, right? Like we talked about email pop-ups and things. So what are some of the other data points that you pay attention to? Or do you just believe that they all roll up into this ultimate conversion eventually? So this is why you're paying attention to these in their entirety.
Yeah, so like as an example, our credit card transactions, right, of the people that click pay on our credit card,
Mm-hmm.
how many are successful? Now, at the moment, it's in the high 80s, right?
Yep.
So in other words, 10% of our customers who put in their credit card don't succeed with that transaction. Now, why? Some of them don't have funds, and there's not much we can do about that. But some of them, it'll be an error reason that we can try and help them with. Now, if we help them with that, that's a granular part of our checkout or our funnel. So our funnel is made up of 4 parts. That's one of the parts. So guys, so even funnel is too much of an Uber stat, because if Kim's going to affect funnel, she's got to affect or improve one of the 4 parts that impact funnel. I don't want to scare anybody on this webinar, because if this is new to you, this is going to feel so overwhelming that like you're not going to start the journey, because it's like, I don't even know where to start. So, but everything can get as granular as you want, granular. And the truth is, the bigger the e-commerce company, the more UX people they have, the more granular they go. And that is how it works.
So are we also talking about things to get them into the funnel, such as emails collected, other actions that you want people to take before they add to basket?
Well, we track everything. So, I mean, we'll track the campaigns that are bringing people to the site. And then from there, we'll track add to basket. And if we make any change on any page, every little button, every interaction, essentially, we add tracking to, and we can very quickly see where the effect lies.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's
so one of the questions that came in that I think piggybacks off this very well is, how much information should we try to extract from customers? Is it just an email address up front, or are you looking for other information to be able to market to them and get them to add to basket?
The UX answer to that is as much as you need and no more. But I think that Ryan will have a different answer.
I sense an argument here that needs to be settled.
I agree with Kim wholeheartedly. In other words, don't ask for stuff you're not going to use. If it doesn't help to know their favorite color, don't ask for it, because it's a pain in the butt to give over information, and users are going to think, why do they want to know that? But we ask for an email address, we ask for a contact number. Now, it's practical that, because if we can't deliver on somebody's order, it's helpful for us to phone them and say, look, we can't find your mother's house. Is this the right number? Is she perhaps away, etc.? But we can also then use that cell number for other avenues. For example, we started some WhatsApp campaigns, etc., so SMSs. So it's not that you have to be purist about the data that you have, but don't ask for something that you don't need. We certainly try not to do that.
Great. So somebody is also asking here, how do you create the dashboard with these stats? Are you using Excel? I imagine you're doing a lot of this through things like Google Analytics, perhaps, with event tracking. What's your technology and means of collecting and tracking these?
Right. So we do use Google Analytics for most of our tracking, and we use the free version. So just everybody on the call, Google has a platform called Google Analytics, if you don't know about it, that allows you to collect pretty much all the data you'll need in terms of how customers use your website. And for a long time, we put that into Excel, and we looked at it in Excel. And that was absolutely fine for us. We've got some data analysts now, and they've created some lovely views for us. You're looking at one on a product called Data Studio, and it's quite nice to use. It's also free. It's easy, but there's nothing wrong with Excel. We used it for forever. And but Google Analytics is the primary data gathering tool that we use for UX, certainly.
Okay, and I know we need to keep moving on this presentation. One more question while we're looking at these stats, though. Someone asked, from your converted traffic of 12% on desktop, how much of that is a repeat purchase? And is that something you guys track? Customer lifetime value, perhaps?
We do. We know our customer lifetime value to the rand. We know our repeat versus new, we can tell you as an example that our repeat users convert at about 15% and our new users convert at around 9%. And we get an average of 12. And that's pretty simple to understand. Somebody who's familiar with us, who knows us, who already has used us and trusts us, is going to have a better chance of converting. So because we know that, by the way, one of Kim's projects over the last about almost a year is to help our new users convert. What can we do to help them across the line? Sometimes it's a voucher. Sometimes it's, look, we know it's a bit scary to give us a go for the first time. So, you know, here's free delivery, or here's a 50 Rand voucher or something to help you get over the line. And it works. These things work. And why did we do that? Because we noticed that our new users were not converting at the same rate as our existing users. So we want to change it. We want to improve that so that the overall conversion rate improves.
Great. Well, there's a lot of questions flowing in, but why don't we keep moving on the presentation, and we have time at the end, perhaps we can get to a lot of these questions.
Super. So just the tools really that Kim uses more than me, but I use as well. I really am quite invested in this. I mean, mainly because firstly, I like working with Kim, but secondly, I actually enjoy this. It's a fascinating part of business because in physical retail, you can't know this stuff. And just as a start, a physical retailer can have no idea what their conversion rate is. None. So they don't know, you know, if they improve it, they can't measure it. But the beauty of online is you have the data. So I really enjoy this. So we use user feedback. Kim will change something on the site, and we'll, if we get user feedback in all sorts of ways, forums that we have on our site, people call our call center, they email us. Kim's monitoring that. From a statistical point of view, as I said, we use Google Analytics. Then what Kim often does is Google Analytics, so she'll make a change and we'll note that the change, let's say, was negative. Her gut was that it was going to be positive, but it's negative. And that's great, because if we know that, then we can work out how to change it again so that it's positive. And what she'll use is, we use a tool called Hotjar. There are many online and they don't cost much. Hotjar is like $29 a month. And we can video our customers. So if Kim makes a change on a page, we can then watch our customers and how they get through that page to understand where was the issue on that page. Registration. If Kim changes our registration page and our rate of registration drops, we want to know why. We know that it dropped. We've got the data. Was it 90%? Now it's at 87%. Why did it drop? So Kim will then video that page. We'll see a whole lot of customers and we'll see, hold on, they, for some reason, they were not noticing the register here button. They weren't seeing it. Maybe it's not bright enough, big enough, it's in the wrong page, it's top left, it should be bottom right, whatever it is. Kim can change that and iterate. We do quite a bit of A/B testing, and we do that because we've got different services. Just to explain to the audience what A/B testing is, we can do that on price. So we can launch a new product. Let's say it's cupcakes. We sell cupcakes. So we've got a bakery and we're launching a new range of cupcakes. And we don't know what to price those cupcakes at. So we can actually price them differently on one server versus the other, send equal amount of traffic to both servers, and at the end of the day, see which set of customers bought more cupcakes. Then we know which price was more attractive for the customer. Now you might say, well, of course they're going to buy the cheaper product. But if almost as many of them bought the more expensive cupcakes or the high price cupcakes, that might be the right price for us. That's a pricing discussion and not for this webinar, but we use A/B testing to put a certain set of customers through this experience versus that experience to understand which experience our customers prefer. And it's very valuable and free. But complicated to set up. You're going to need a bit of tech help, but free. Google Analytics offers that for free, which is wild, actually. It's quite exceptional. And then a lot of research, as Kim says. We do a lot of customer research. But I thought we'd take everybody through a current challenge that we had in our business, and this is live data, so it shouldn't be seen as anything else. It's real numbers. Now, we're a gifting business, and we sell gifts, and we offer our customers a free card. If you buy from us, give us a message on the card. We'll write it down on a free card. Okay. but we also sell fancy cards. And we want customers to buy those cards. If they want a free card, great. But if they want a nicer card, we sell those cards. We sell them at 39 Rand, and we hope that a lot of customers buy that. And what we noticed by looking at the data, and you can see the data on the right, is that we were selling far fewer cards on desktop than Mobi. You can see 19 is on Mobi and 9 is on desktop, if you can see my cursor. So that presented with an opportunity. What's wrong with our Mobi site versus our desktop site that we're not selling as many cards? This is what our desktop site looks like. And the cards, these are the upsell cards, and they're kind of in your face, and they do a reasonable job. On Mobi, these are them. What we did is we put our greeting cards, which you can see in the middle here, together with other things that we sell as upsells or additions. And because of that, our customers just weren't noticing them. I mean, that's clearly what was happening. So Kim changed it up. So what she did is she gave cards a very prominent place in our checkout, in our funnel. And we'll look at the results. But Kim and I so maybe I'll let Kim talk about this, kind of what her instinct was around this. And then she can explain the very heated debate that we had about the checkout, or the tick box. I'll hand over to Kim.
All right, so this brief was brought to my table with the idea of increasing the upsell cards, as we call them. Those are the fancy cards on Mobi. And the directors who came to me, I'm not going to name names, said that they really wanted to put it in the user's face. They really wanted to, if they haven't picked a card on this page, they want to give them a pop-up and say, are you sure that you don't want to pick a card? They want to have it on the product page. They want to have it on this page. They want to have it on the pop-up. They want to have that pop-up come up again on the, and I said, there's no way, because we're going to, first of all, do this in checkout, and people are going to drop out. People are simply going to say, I've told you no, and I'm dealing with this repeatedly. And on top of that, my instinct was that if we just give these upsell cards a bit more visibility, because we didn't have them in checkout as we do on desktop, if we just give them a bit more visibility without forcing it down people's throats, that we will see a substantial increase. And so what I did was I designed this. I did work on some existing designs that had never gone live. I incorporated that, and I basically just said, look, here are these top 3 exciting cards. The cards that will be displayed there will be according to the product that you purchased. So if in this scenario, they've done an anniversary item or a love and romance item, so we're showing them love and romance cards. I've given them the price from the get-go and said, look, it is an extra cost, but here, and we have more available. If you don't want that, we have a generic card that you can go with. And then that's what we went ahead with, instead of, being forceful about it. This is what happens if you were to look at the additional options. You can filter them by occasion.
Right.
So
just talk about the checkout, Kim, because that was really where our biggest discussion was. Well, let me preface it is, the question was, do we auto tick the generic card or the gift card?
Yes, so that's the other thing. Do we force
our customers? Yeah, so and that was a big debate, and it could go either way, to be honest.
Yes.
Do we pre-tick the paid for card and force our customers to say, no, I don't want that, I want the generic card, or do we do it the other way? And that's a big UX debate. And I love that we have debates on that kind of subtle level, because I think for a lot of businesses, they just say, just pre-tick this, who cares, whatever. But Kim is very protective of our customers in the journey. And so we pre-ticked the generic card, and if our customers want a paid card, they go ahead and they tick it, and that's what it looked like. And whoopsie, I've lost sorry, I don't know why it's not on this, but just to end off, the results are dramatic. We sell about 80 a day, and it's a 300% increase. So the results have been really quite substantial, which is fantastic for us. Sorry, I don't know why, I don't know where that's gone. And it's just it's a good example of quite subtle UX that achieved the aims, grew our sales significantly in upsells, but Kim didn't shove it down our customers' throats. So hopefully their experience of it is a pleasant experience versus person jumping out of an aisle with a clipboard, as you explained originally. And so kind of, I think UX 1 but there was lots of debate about it, and good, healthy debate. And yeah, and I love that we do that at Naturalist, actually.
It's great to hear, Ryan, that you are involved in that too, because so many of the brands we work with at The Good have, the higher level executives, the MDs, have no understanding of anything except sell, sell, sell. Nothing around helping consumers accomplish their tasks, or even working with the UX team appropriately. So Kimberly, you must feel fairly lucky being having that support there, even though there's some clashes and arguments. I think it sounds healthy, and those are really the healthy arguments that should be there. I'm interested, while we're on this, what is, and this is a question that came in, what are your thoughts on discounting? Does discounting increase turnover? How does it affect your profits? I don't want to, kind of lead the discussion too much here. I'm interested in what you guys have to say, but I often say that discounting is margin drain. It's really not optimization. So many brands hit the easy button and go to discounting as a way of increasing their conversions. But in the end, the data pretty much says that you have to really sell a lot more to make up for a discount when it comes to revenue, especially margins. So what is your point of view on this?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have that debate a lot in our business. So in general, we don't discount. But what we do try and use an incentive is to help somebody over the line that is not getting over the line themselves. So as an example, we've got, people are very familiar with them. We've got an abandoned basket mailer. So if you add something to our basket and you don't complete the checkout, then, a few hours later we email you, we say, your basket's sad, misses you, that kind of shtick. But the next day, if you haven't bought from us, we may send you a voucher to say, look, we know you didn't buy, would a 50 Rand voucher help you with that decision? And we do get some success with that. So we're not discounting all over the base, but we're using it quite strategically when we want to convert a sale, to be frank.
Anything to add to that, Kimberly?
Well, I agree with the strategic use. So I see somebody in the comments said it's a manipulation, it's not ideal long term. Yes and no. I guess it depends what you're discounting and whether you're just throwing it at people at every opportunity. I think you have to. We measure it. We measure the returns of that and the effect on margin. But also, I think that what maybe perhaps you're trying to say, John, is that your experience should stand alone. It shouldn't be necessary. It's maybe something you can offer your users. It's maybe something that you can use to push someone over the edge, as Ryan said, but you really shouldn't have to rely on it to get a sale.
Yeah. I see so often that brands use it to even collect an email address. So, we talked a lot about those pop-ups. The first thing brands do is put that pop-up in front of you and say, I'll give you 10% off if you give me your email address. Well, you're really just telling consumers our products are not worth what we charge or you normally charge. It's worth 10% less. And you're just announcing that right off the bat, which creates quite honestly, a discount mindset. And that's not where most brands want to be. So
I have to say, John, just to overlay that, is we're not very purist about much, to be honest. In other words, we like principles, they're great, but we also like to test things. So although we may have a view in our company that exactly what you said, that a discount can create a perception about the value of the product, etc., we're happy to test it and then validate it either way, one way or the other. Sometimes testing is difficult, sometimes it's easy, but we'll try a lot of stuff because the beauty of online is you can actually measure. You can measure most of what you try. So we're quite experimental and been quite happy with that. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, we have a very common saying at The Good, and it's, well, we should test that. because
Right.
really we get, we've worked with two competing brands over time, and the same test can have different results against the exact same products, essentially, right? Just different brand. And so it's really interesting that it all really comes down to the specific consumers for that site. And, that's going to be different quite times. I'm looking here at some of the other questions that are coming in. And I assume you're done with the presentation then, Ryan.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's
yes,
fine. We can take
wonderful.
questions.
Great. So we have about 10 minutes. We can answer some more questions here. From a marketing perspective, what is the biggest driver of quality traffic to your website?
So that's a digital marketing question, which I know isn't, but I do work in that space as well. So, what I will say is that it's near impossible to do anything digitally without Google. So they are our number one driver of traffic. We pay a lot of money for that, but it's profitable for us. Our main sources of traffic are direct. We're very fortunate to have a brand, and we see direct as a brand on Google. So just to explain that, is when somebody goes to Google and types in the word net florist, we really see that as a direct traffic source. But then SEO and AdWords combine to give us our biggest traffic source. SEO for us is slightly ahead of AdWords, slightly. Our third biggest is email. We'll direct Google and then email. And following that is Facebook and Instagram together. And then following that, we work with affiliates and we do some other stuff. We've got partners. But the big drivers are direct, email, Google, and social, which we call Facebook.
And I know we don't want to spend too much time on the marketing side of that because we're talking more about the sell side, but to kind of bring that back home, what is the highest converting channel for you? At the Good, for instance, we see it's usually email is the best quality in terms of revenue. Is that the same for you?
Right. So our biggest conversion is on any brand keywords. So we see that as direct, but any brand terms on Google is our biggest converter. Kind of makes sense. People are looking for us. After that, it's SEO in its own right, then AdWords or search, and then email is just slightly behind. So yeah. We probably need to be doing a better job on email.
And
you're right.
That tells me that you're selling to people who have intent, right? Because they're searching for you and finding you,
right.
which is great.
Right.
So
yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back up in the questions here because there were quite a few earlier that I think we could get back to here. Someone asked what platform you're using. Is it custom?
Completely custom. Yeah, we built our own custom platform. We can't, it's very hard for us to use an off-the-shelf package. We've got so many nuances to our business, it doesn't work. But what I would suggest is if you're starting an online business, I would use an off-the-shelf platform every day and twice on Sundays. You really only need to be building your own thing if your website gets super complex, and you can do that at a later stage. I wouldn't build one off the bat. I see a question about SEO, which is interesting. Somebody's asked how much we spend on SEO. So actually, SEO is an internal cost because we do it all internally, and our main focus on SEO is copywriters. So we're writing a lot of content on our site, off our site, that's driving traffic, and that's an internal cost. We've got quite a few copywriters. Our biggest challenge with SEO over the last year, I would say, which is a common challenge for businesses that have a little bit of legacy that aren't brand new, is Google has moved to a Mobi first process, which means that they're marking your site based on your Mobi site, not your desktop site. Now, we came from a history where there was no Mobi site. When we started our business, there was no such thing as a mobile site. There wasn't a website on his phone. So our Mobi site has lagged our desktop sites in some senses. And now we're having to put a huge amount more effort in our Mobi site, not only because our customers are trafficking our Mobi site more than our desktop site, but Google is as well. So, so anybody on the call, if you're worried about SEO, your effort really needs to be much more in your Mobi site if you have two separate sites in your desktop site. If you've got one responsive site, then it won't matter. But Google watches Mobi, not desktop anymore, and that's where our effort goes.
Yeah, it's definitely looking at site speed as well. And I think this is where the off-the-shelf platforms that you mentioned earlier are really the best way to go when you're starting out.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it's like in South Africa, but Shopify in the United States and North America is really just amazing and very, very well done and fairly inexpensive as well. So worth taking a look at.
Right. Yeah, they're big here as well, John. Shopify and Wix and the bigger sites, Magento, they used a lot, and WordPress, etc.
One question that came in is, what is the main reason that customers bounce off of a site?
I would say there are two main reasons. The first reason is you kind of misrepresented yourself when you try to get them. So, if you say, you're selling cars and they come to your site and it's really short-term insurance, well, they're going to bounce because most customers are not going to fall for that these days. So the first thing is how you're advertising, whether it's SEO or AdWords or whatever you're doing, should be very reflective of the landing page that your customers land on. So if you're selling red roses, if that's what your advert is, your customers should land on a page that is selling red roses, not white roses, not a hamper, not something else that you hope you'll sneak and sell your customer even though they came from that. So your landing page should be very reflective of what you're advertising. So that's the first. Don't misrepresent that because you're wasting money on advertising. And the second thing is the landing page. Just to explain to everybody what a landing page is, because everybody thinks your home page is your landing page. It is sometimes, but often not. So your landing page is whatever the page is where people came into the site. So if we're placing an ad on Google for red roses and you click on that ad, you will come to our red roses page, not our home page. And that red rose page is now the landing page. That's what it is. And if somebody bounces, just to whoever answers the question, what a bounce rate is when they came to your landing page, they just left. They didn't do anything else. They didn't go to page 2. They didn't go to page 5. They didn't do anything else. They didn't click on anything else. They just left. So it's really somebody walks into Pick and Pay and just walks straight out. That's our Walmart, John. So they just walked straight out. They didn't do anything. That's a bounce. And obviously, if your advertising is not reflective of what you're offering, people are going to bounce. And also, if the landing page isn't enticing, people are going to bounce. So, if Kim's landing pages are a mess, text all over the place, you can't see anything, it doesn't look intuitively nice. It's not a nice customer experience. The beauty of the internet is you've got choice. That's the downside for us e-commerce guys, is a customer can just go somewhere else at the click of a mouse. Whereas in retail, if you walk into a retail shop, to go to another shop is quite a mission. So, most customers in a retail shop will actually walk into something that doesn't look so appealing because they have to get into their car and go to another one. Online, they just X out, they bounce off your site and go to another one. So the marketing has to reflect the landing page, and the landing page has to be enticing, nice, intuitive, good UX. And then you will lower your bounce rate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are unaware that Google actually, part of how they price your ads and AdWords is based on what they call a quality score. How much does the ad text and content align with the page you're driving people to? And the higher this quality score, the lower they charge, because it's in Google's best interest to have ads that deliver what is being promised. So it's that's one way that Google improves their user experience. So
that's right.
So we have a charge for one more question probably. There's a question here about website security. And I would like to discuss that around conversions in UX. Do you find that security has a big impact on conversions in UX? They're asking, is HTTPS enough, or do you need to give other attention to website security?
It's a good question. Look, I would suggest that it may be linked to the trust implicit in your brand. So, you know, if you're going to buy from Amazon, I can't imagine many people have a look at Amazon security infrastructure. I think people just figure that they've got that solved. You know, so I think the stronger your brand is, frankly, the less attention you need to give users to your security. At NetFlorist, we take security very seriously. The question is, how much do we shove that in our users' face? Because in the early days, right, we've been around for over 20 years. In the early days, people were layering their site with all sorts of stuff because they were right. Consumers were nervous. You know, I'm going to give my credit card detail. What's going to happen? You know, suddenly somebody going to buy a car in the Bahamas, and you know, with my card details. I think overall people are quite trusting of that now. I don't think that's a big issue online. If you're a new company that people are not aware of, you may want to say something about it. You have to have the basics, which is HTTPS. You have to have that. You can't, if you're trying to transact without that, which just means that credit card data and other data is encrypted. But do you have to be shoving it down your users' throats that we're secure, we've got this security, we've got that security? I don't think so in general. If you're brand new, maybe a little bit. If you're established, I think if you've got HTTPS, users can see that. Everybody knows where to look for that. My gut is it's sufficient, but Kim, John, you may have completely different views. I don't know.
It won't hurt, especially if you are quite new, to have just you know, those little security logos and stuff in your checkout. You know,
Right.
that can help. It just builds trust.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say trust is the key word here.
Right.
How are you increasing trust? And sometimes putting a whole bunch of security badges on your site decreases trust and increases fear. And the problem
Right.
is we hear consumers all the time when we're interviewing them, and a site has a lot of security badges and whatnot on their site. They say things like, what happened to the site that they had to go get these security badges? And so it has a negative effect when the brand was hoping to have a positive effect. And so it is something where you obviously need to pay attention to it. But I think, you know, where people might have those concerns is best to increase trust, like in checkout, where they're giving their private information, their credit card. That's a great place to put a security badge, because you're not creating uncertainty at that point. You are really being reassuring. But if you have it on every single page of your site, you might be creating some uncertainty there.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Kimberly and Ryan. This has been wonderful. Lots of great insights today. I know that there will be a recording that will be shared as well. And so from here, any parting words that you'd like to share?
Kim, you can go first.
I think from my perspective, I think John hit the nail on the head when he said it's about empathy. From a UX perspective, it's about putting yourself in your users' shoes and put them first. And if you do that, it will have a positive impact for your revenue. That's my final perspective.
Cool. Just from my side, just UX is a journey for us. It's not we don't have to, you know, do everything in a rush and next month we've got everything covered. It's been a long journey in our business, and nobody should be scared about it. Start wherever you start, slowly learn, test, try this, try that. You know, it's a really great journey to be on, I think. And don't panic about it, and don't worry about the jargon. You'll figure it out as you go along. It's, you know, it's not rocket science. It's hard work, and you need great design and a good mind and keen research and attention to data, and you'll do it over time and you'll get there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon.